Blaine Bartlett, welcome to the Grateful Podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Jack, absolutely my pleasure. It's an honor to be here talking with you.
Thank you. That means a lot. You've been studying information on how people can succeed and live their best lives for 53 years. Yet, we talked before this, and you are still going to get your PhD in philosophy, studying metaphysical foundations of business ethics. I think that is a fantastic place to start because it shows how committed you are to learning and always improving. Why, I think a lot of people will ask this question, why, even though you've accomplished so much, are you still looking to learn more and grow and keep going?
I'm hungry. I guess that's probably the easiest way to answer that question. I am fascinated by the process of learning, and it continues to open new doors. Marcus Aurelius quoted, I believe it was Epictetus, and this is Stoic philosophy. But the quotation had to do, and I'll just paraphrase it here. If you want to continue growing in your life, you need to spend time with the dead. And what he was talking about was authors, people that had written books, people, and this is, around 223, I think it was AD. I mean, Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor. And I've always been struck by that, learning, continuous learning. Yeah. And this is, I think, the only way that we actually end up sustaining success in life is to continue learning. And what I've discovered in that process is what I believed when I was in my 20s no longer holds water. And that's not just because of the rate of change that we experience today and the new discoveries and whatnot, but our worlds and our lives are reflections of internal belief systems. And belief systems are not just handed to us when we're born and we've got this little package that says, here's the way that reality is structured. We actually begin to form them pretty early on. Some say epigenetically, even in the womb, we begin to put some of the pieces together. So beliefs are manufactured, and people treat them as if they are absolute truths, and they aren't. They aren't. Just the simple way, you look at me, you look at yourself, and the belief we have is, I am a man. Well, my body would suggest that. But who's the I that I'm speaking of? Who's the I that is actually speaking that language? I am a man. No, my consciousness, inhabits this form, this corporeal form, and it happens to have the attributes of maleness. But I am not a man. I am consciousness that is taking this form, and then I get to execute my life through this form. And I can either be limited by that, or I can find that to be very expansive. So I continuously am looking for ways to poke holes in my belief systems.
That's incredible. And, I think that's the opposite to what so many of us do, where so many of us seek out experiences and environments where we can enforce and reinforce our belief systems, right? Because we're scared of what happens if we are going to start to poke holes in them. Because after there's just a domino effect, right? And that's really scary. So for you, at what age did you start to understand that your true growth and what you really wanted came after you started to question your beliefs, not reinforce them?
Great question. That probably happened in my late teens. I came across a science fiction book, Stranger in a Strange Land. And that remains a seminal book in my library. And it spoke to the possibilities that were available to us if we stopped thinking in a narrow box, if we started expanding our sense of self. And Isaac Asimov, he was the author, but it was, I started playing a game with myself. What if this was true? And So I sat down, I was 18, and I wrote a bucket list.
Hmm.
And there's 20 items on that list. And by the time I was 24, 25, I had done every one of them. And these were, when I wrote those when I was 18, they were just imaginations. I mean, I knew nobody literally that had done most of those, that had ever done any of those things. I'd read about people that had done it. I ended up doing it. And a large part of it had to do with I started challenging my belief systems. People will argue for their limitations.
Mm.
And you'll hear this in conversations with people, particularly in business. We can't do that because, and then you
Yeah. And then
counterpoint
they
that and go,
lean
well,
into that.
yeah.
Right.
And so they will vociferously and
Hmm.
agitatedly argue for, you don't understand. We can't do it because. I'm going, well,
Yeah.
yeah. If you put that
Huh.
much energy into doing it, rather than arguing for why it can't be done, what that does is it puts you right smack dab up against your belief systems, and belief systems are boxes. You want to think outside the box. You want to get outside the box.
So I think that's so interesting because I mean, I see it all the time. I actually just wrote something, I forget if I published it online or not, about this because I mean, I've been if you include my podcast, I've ran 3 companies now. And the thing I've noticed is the moments that I feel I'm not making progress, I start to really question my beliefs. And I do a thing that Bob Proctor teaches where you write out what you believe, right? And you write it out in black pen. You draw a line, you write it, and then you write out the other version of that in blue. And you tear up, you burn, whatever with the negatives. And I start to realize that I'm really attached to the things that might be holding me back. I'm really attached to the idea that this problem is really hard to solve, that this problem takes resources I don't have, that I need money to go further, that I need more resources, I need a bigger team. When you're in a spot where it feels illogical to change your belief systems, where everyone around you tells you that information that actually reinforces those negative beliefs, what are your steps to start to change that so that you can change your reality?
Again, great question. I love that. The trap that most people fall into, I'm going to longer answer than what you were probably expecting with this.
All good, go for it.
And Napoleon Hill, most people are familiar with Napoleon Hill through Think and Grow Rich. He wrote another book that was called Outwitting the Devil. And Outwitting the Devil was written in the late 1930s during the Depression, the Great Depression. It did not get published until about 2006, I believe it was,
Hmm.
because it challenged the church, it challenged political systems, and it challenged societal norms. And the family was afraid of the blowback that would
Mm.
occur. Now, what's interesting about that is that dynamic, number one, the limitation that was placed on their belief about external circumstances and what might happen. But the other part of it has to do with just the messaging in the book, Outwitting the Devil. He talks about how human beings end up drifting away from their dreams.
Hmm.
And it's typically unconscious. It works with the subconscious mind. And a large part of it has to do with paying attention to external reality, quote unquote reality, external
Hmm.
reality, and and believing that that dictates what my future is going to be. So to the point about I don't have enough money right now. Okay, I look at my bank account and that just stops me dead. One of the things in the work that I do with the clients that I have, in organizations, and this is a test for commitment. As as
Okay.
soon as we, you come up with a goal, and this is might be useful with one of your companies. As soon as we come up with this goal or this objective or this thing that we wanna do, and people say, "Yep, I'm in," pay attention to what the next things are that they talk about. Most people
Interesting.
will most people will go to, I'm in, but how are we going to do that?" So
uh,
the immediate move to how are we going to do that suggests that they are paying attention to limitation. They're paying attention to, yeah, things that they've had experience with that don't match what this new step is going to require. So they
yeah.
immediately begin to block themselves.
Hmm.
The question how should never come up early in the conversation. It
Interesting.
should
So,
never come up early in the conversation.
so if we're relating this to a sales conversation, for example, and this is more for honestly a personal note for all my listeners, but if you get someone to say yes and you get someone to commit, and then right away they start focusing on the limitations and they start saying, "So I'm in, but how are we going to do it? What are we going to do next? What's our next step?" What do you do as the person facilitating in that scenario?
Yeah. The couple, you work through questions. The way that a large body of my work is all around leadership. Yeah, influencing others in order to co-create coordinated movement in pursuit of a worthy ideal. That's my
Say
definition
that
of
again.
leadership. Influencing
Yeah.
others in order to co-create coordinated movement in pursuit of a worthy ideal.
I love that.
Now, the worthy ideal is the key to this. Because you can have a vision, you can have a goal or an objective, and people go, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's logical. This is particularly true in a business. That's logical. We can understand why that's important for the business. But it stops there. And this is why people then go to how, because they aren't bought in. It's not meaningful to them at a visceral level. So the question is, okay, if we are going to achieve this, what will that make possible for you to either be, do, or have as
Mm.
an individual? If we're successful at doing this, what does that make possible that is currently not in your experience in terms of beingness, doingness, or havingness? And is that important to you? Does that matter? And if you can get them to the point of going, that matters, that is so important, how disappears. They're just going to go out and they're going to start doing it. And part of that, honestly, Jack, it has to do with a misunderstanding that people have about commitment.
Mm.
When we define something that we think is important, you'll hear people say, I am committed to that. That
Hmm.
language, to that. It's outside of me.
It
It's
should be
out
in here.
there. It should be here. So when I work
Interesting.
with for the sake of what, now it matters. What matters is in me. So I literally become a commitment
Hmm.
to that outcome. So there's a state of being that gets transformed with that.
Hmm. Because the commitment has to be to oneself, or is it even a step further? You are the commitment.
I am the commitment and I will play with the language around that. I am a
Yeah.
commitment to having this outcome. I am
Okay.
a commitment to this result. I am a commitment. There's a identity, it basically becomes part of my identity at that point.
Right. And I think that that has to relate in a way to A, B, and C goals, right? Where
Yeah.
we are not going to truly commit ourselves, or we're not going to become a commitment if something is not emotionally involving in us enough for us to do that. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And the emotional involvement, the emotional engagement is what we're looking for with this. Yeah, I mean, everything works on frequencies. Everything has a frequency structure associated. I mean, that literally gives it its existence. There's a frequency band. And on that frequency band, anything that is on that frequency band is available to me. This is where the law of
Mm.
attraction comes into play. The law of attraction is a secondary law. The primary law is the law of vibration. So that's why I want to, what matters to me? I vibrate at a frequency level, and this is not woo-woo. This is actual physics. I vibrate at a frequency that is consistent with my belief systems. So when I
Hmm.
look around, I see in my life artifacts that are consistent with that frequency band. When I
Mm.
start thinking in a different way, literally thinking in a different way, not just pictorially thinking, but thinking in a whole body sense, where I start feeling that is a reality. It lives in me. It now lives in me as a reality. I have shifted frequency, and in
Mm.
that shift of frequency, all of a sudden, whatever's on that new wavelength, that new band, that new frequency band is now available to me. It wasn't
Mm.
available to me before. It's now available to me because there's a frequency shift. This is a phase shift structure.
So I want to make this real and tangible for people listening because I've gone through training that specifically teaches me to believe in things like that and understand things on a frequency level. But to take this back to your life, when you were 18, you said you set out and you made a bucket list, right?
Yeah.
And by the time you were 24, you achieved all of them. So what types of goals did you set? How did you go out to set these goals? And how did you go about changing your frequency so that your goals were able to come to you? Because I think this could be really helpful for both me to understand and my audience how you applied this into your life and how this can relate, these ideas that sound really good, how they can actually apply and change lives.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the ABC conversation, ABC goals. That first, Bob Proctor kind of, dropped that one into the into the vernacular of a lot of people that study this stuff. Bob and I've done a number of programs together. We taught together, and I took that ABC goal format and modified it a bit, and I stayed with what he would articulate very well, that the purpose of a goal is not to get something. The purpose of a goal is to grow. If you're not growing, the goals you set for yourself end up being irrelevant because you end up
Mm,
you just end up replicating more of what you already have. So
okay.
he kind of parsed this out. An A goal is something that I already know how to do. I've got a car. I've got a couple of cars parked in the garage. I know how to buy a car. So if I want a new car as a goal, there's no growth involved with that. I mean, I
Yeah.
know I know where to go. I know how to, all that stuff. That's an A type goal. A B type goal is something that I want to have. I haven't really done it myself, but I know people that know how to do it. So I know where to get the information. So that's a B type goal. There is a little bit of growth involved with that. The next level up, I've got to hold on just a moment. I've got a couple of dogs
All good.
barking here. Uh, the next level up from that is something that Bob called a C type goal. I call it a growl.
A
A
growl.
growl. This is a
Okay.
goal that is literally designed to grow me. I have no idea how to achieve it. I just know, and this is where, what matters, that for the sake of what comes into play. I just know that this is something that's important for me. And I
Mm,
will grow as I discover how to achieve that. Now, that's the intellectual piece of it. When I position myself with goals, now I'm on a journey. I set myself for a journey. And this is what I did unconsciously, this is what I did with that first bucket list. I set these goals out there and I had no idea how I was going to achieve them. I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to them from a how perspective. I just, this is something that I would love to have this. And that's one of the things that defines a goal. I would love to have this.
mm,
I would love to have this. This is the be, do, have dynamic. What do I
yeah.
get to be, do, or have? I would love that. So I literally just set it aside, in terms of the writing of it, just, put it in a pile someplace. I don't know where I put it. But then I started reading. I started studying. I went back to stuff that, um, I had learned, kept me excited, kept me interested, kept me inspired.
Hmm.
Inspiration is internal piece. Motivation is externally driven. So I
Yeah.
was looking for inspiration. So I would keep coming back. I would read Thomas Troward. I would read Neville Goddard. I would read, just philosophy. People that had done things that I'd wanted to do, had been there, had walked this path before. And it's through that repetition that I began to, all of a sudden go, maybe if I tried that, that could be interesting. I never thought of doing that. And it
Mm,
was those incremental pieces, the how began to appear because I was organized around the experience of having that ideal, that worthy ideal, be present in my life. And from 18 to 24, not a whole lot of years, 6 years, stuff
yeah.
magically started dropping into place.
What were some of those things?
I wanted to be an aerobatic pilot. I didn't have a pilot's
Okay.
license. Yeah, I mean, it's kinda like I didn't know anybody that flew. Um, I wanted to travel the world. Yeah, when I was, 19, I was invited to an exchange program, at the university,
Okay.
and ended up going to Europe, and, I had no I
Wow.
mean, I grew up on a small farm in Oregon,
Yeah.
and,
We have some resonance there. That's really cool.
yeah, so, I mean, things like that. Looking back on them, and this is one of the things at 24, I kinda realized I need to start setting bigger goals for myself.
Yes. Yeah.
But at the time, they seemed pretty significant.
Right.
And I've used that process, pretty religiously since then.
I'm running this podcast, I'm running a business, and I'm also a full time neuroscience student. Sometimes, no matter how grateful and ambitious I am, my brain just doesn't want to keep up. And I know that you know the feeling of having all these things you value so much that you just don't feel like you have the time or the focus to get done. And that's exactly why I take Magic Mind every single morning. It's a mental performance shot. It's got the adaptogens, the nootropics, and the time release caffeine so that you don't get the jitters or the 3 p.m. crash, but you get all the energy, all the clarity, and all the focus to accomplish your goals. And I've been taking it every single morning because of those exact things. You guys know that I would never promote a brand that I didn't fully trust would get you the results that you're looking for. So if you're looking for more performance, more clarity, more focus, then go to magicmind.com/Wagoner20, put Wagoner20 in at checkout and get 20% off a package of these shots or 48% off a subscription. Go try it and let me know what you think. Let's get back to this awesome episode.
Yeah.
So that's so incredible, and I've seen the same thing happen in my life, where now it's like, wow, the goals I'm setting for myself right now would have looked like a person was absolutely mad writing them on paper 2 years ago, even, right? And I'm the same as you, where I'm 19 right now, and I said I really want to travel the world. And this year, in the past year, I'm studying in London, and I've been able to visit, I think, 16 countries or something like that. And it's been incredible to. In your experience, I'm curious, what influence does traveling and exploring new cultures have on the work that you do and what you've understood about the mind?
I've lived in Japan, I've lived in Australia, I've lived in Europe, I do work in Africa. I've run dog sleds above the Arctic Circle. I mean, yeah, I've floated rivers in Russia, where we had to build a
Wow.
raft and we had a helicopter come and get us, because we were so far out into the bush. I mean, there is so much in life to be experienced that will enhance my sense of what's possible,
Mm.
that when I can find ways to go do it, and it starts with that grow notion. Yeah, I wanna grow into something. Yeah, an example, just of a grow in action. Oh, this goes back about 20 years, I believe, in the healthcare space, here in the United States. I wanted to begin doing, I mean, a lot of my work is around strategic planning,
Hmm.
leadership and the implementation of strategic plans in large organizations. That's a lot of what I do. I thought it would be interesting to start working in the healthcare system, particularly in hospital systems and that sort of thing, because there was and still is, just all kinds of, craziness going on there. I didn't have a medical degree. I'd never been to medical school. Uh, the only doctor I knew was my GP. But
Yeah.
started thinking, I would absolutely love to make a difference there. I would love to bring some of the leadership content that I've developed into these systems. I don't know how to do it, but I just held that idea, and I saw myself lecturing to different groups. I mean, literally saw myself, felt myself, doing that. Out of the blue, and I mean literally, kind of quote unquote out of the blue, I got a postal mail. This came in the mail, a letter from the American Association of Physician Leadership. Said, we've heard of some of your work. Would be interested in knowing if you would be open to exploring putting together a program for our group of physician leaders. This is the
Mm.
largest physician leadership
Wow.
education group in the world. And they said, they went on to say, we've got a program that we're doing with Harvard. And if you're interested in it, you would end up collaborating with these practitioners out of Harvard, and you would be the delivering mechanism inside our AAPL conferences. So that was 20 some odd years ago. I've been on their teaching faculty ever since, and I've lectured at the University of Colorado Medical School. Just all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I've taught all over the country. With physician leaders, with hospital systems. I've consulted with large hospital systems, but it started with that dream, and it was not predicated. It would have been easy to stop by saying, "God, who am I? I don't have a medical background. I don't know anybody that does this. But that was not where my brain went. My brain went, God, this would be really cool. I would love to be able to do that." So this is kind of a long answer to the question. A large part of that was informed by travel.
Okay.
A large part of that was informed by travel. In behind me here, I've got a talking stick. I was made an elder in the Maasai tribe in Kenya, through some of the work that we do there. And one of the things that on one of my bucket lists was I wanted to be teaching leadership to indigenous tribes around the world. And
you did it. That's incredible. So, Blaine, I think something you said there is you could have had all of these negative beliefs come up. You could have talked to yourself and said, well, I don't know a doctor. Why am I qualified for this? What makes me able to make this change? And you said your mind wasn't there. For everyone listening, do you get those thoughts that come up? Do you have those thoughts? All right, so what do you do when those thoughts enter your mind? What's your reaction to that?
I just, that's interesting. Not here. We have the ability, we have the capacity to control our thoughts. Now, they will pop up. I have no control over what pops up necessarily, but I have complete control over whether I entertain them or not. And that's, it pops up, go, nah, I don't think so. That is not going to work for me.
And did you start to do that when you were 24, 18 to 24? Was that an unconscious habit you had?
Yeah, okay. I started, and that literally came out of some of the reading I was doing at that point in time.
Okay.
Yeah, here's a technique. Just recognize it and then dismiss it. Recognize, dismiss.
So at what point, because it sounds like you went through a phase of what Bob would have called unconscious competent, where you were doing the right things, you were getting the goals, you understood subconsciously frequency, but you weren't able to explain it, and you didn't know why you were getting the results. So at what point did you start to study and understand what you were actually doing and understand why you were able to able to achieve the things you were achieving, or what you were doing with your mind and blocking out those thoughts or putting them to the side?
I don't think that there was a moment that I could identify that said, okay, the switch has been flipped. It was more of a slow evolution, I guess would be. It was more of a slow evolution, but it was informed by both desire, what would I love, but it was also informed by paying attention. Notice what I'm noticing. And that meme, notice what you're noticing, has served me very well. Squirrel. Okay, now why did my attention just get pulled over here? Okay, I notice that my attention has been grabbed. What's going on there? And what was the trigger? What was so compelling about that? So this is where that continual exploration starts to really pay dividends. Is I start noticing what I'm noticing, and I'm assuming have heard this. Yeah, attention or energy. Energy does not follow intention. Energy follows attention. Mm-hmm. So where is my attention directed? Because that the energy that is hijacked by my attention is not going to be useful in getting me where I say I want to go if it's not aligned.
Hmm.
So this is why this is the whole notion of drifting again. Going back to
Right.
that Outwitting the Devil book. We find ourselves drifting in life because we are not noticing what we're noticing. And then,
It's very meta.
yeah, it is. It's very meta. I mean, when you think about the foundational component of effective leadership, emotional intelligence comes into play. And
Hmm.
the bedrock of emotional intelligence is awareness. And that's another way of saying noticing what I'm noticing. Just becoming aware, just aware of what's going on with me, inside me, first of all. But then secondly, what's going on in my environment, situational awareness.
Yeah.
What have I not noticed before that could be useful here? And that's one way that I begin to shift the frequency structures, because everything is always existing. It's always here.
Right.
I'm just not paying attention. I'm just not noticing it so that I can leverage it.
Right. Yeah, I think I read that one of your favorite things to say. I wrote it down is, um, it it already happened. I just haven't arrived yet,
Yeah.
and I love that so much. What does that mean?
Everything is invented twice. First is an idea, and then the second time is in physical form. Somebody actually takes the reins and goes and does something with it. I mean, everything that will ever exist, everything that has existed, everything that could exist already exists as probability, as potential, and it's just a matter of accessing it.
Hmm.
Yeah, Leonardo da Vinci designed the helicopter, and I've got drawings, that he did, that was a helicopter. Sikorsky was the one that actually built the helicopter about 400 years after da
Mm.
Vinci designed it. But
Yeah.
the helicopter existed, first as an idea and then in physical form. Now metallurgy and fuel, I mean, all of the stuff that was needed to make it happen got
Right.
developed, but it was there. It was there. Yeah. So this is, I'll work with my clients with something that I call a 1,000-year vision.
Okay.
And part of the reason I use a 1,000-year vision is because it eliminates very quickly the how. So in 1,000 years, what do you see possible for yourself, for your organization? What's it look like in 1,000 years? And
Wow.
people go, "Are you out of your mind?" I'm going, "Yeah, probably, but let's play with this." In 1,000 years, so they start building this castle in the sky sort of a thing. In 1,000 years, here's what it looks like. Now they recognize fully that they're not going to be there. So once we get this kind of castle in the sky picture developed, we start stepping it down. Okay, what's the first thing that we need to do today that will make that possible in 1,000 years?
Right.
So I mean, just an interesting way of playing with the imagination. Carl Jung, the philosopher, said, "Without the play of the imagination, nothing of significance has ever come into being."
Hmm.
So the play of the imagination is the gateway to creativity, obviously, but it's also the gateway to the soul. And I don't mean this
Yeah.
in a religious sense. It's the gateway to that spirit that gives life to my ideas and my dreams. And imagination lives at the threshold of the soul.
Where do you stand religiously?
I'm agnostic in that regard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you spiritual?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
everything has a spirit to it. Everything has a spirit to it. And again, I don't mean that in a religious sense,
Yeah.
but everything has a life force. I mean, this tree that I'm looking at out here, there's a consciousness that informed its existence.
Hmm.
Now, whether that's a sentient consciousness or not, it's a completely different conversation, but there's a consciousness that said tree. I mean, in the acorn, there is an oak tree wanting to
Right.
be, so there's a spirit in there, and, all of the elements that, are needed, except the external nutrition, are present.
Hmm.
Everything in the universe has that. Max Planck was the father of quantum physics. In 1908, I think it was, he said, "We can get behind everything." And then this is a reductionist philosophy that physicists were working with. We can get behind everything. We can get behind an atom. We can get behind an electron. We can get behind a proton. We can get behind everything.
Yeah.
We can't seem to get behind consciousness. consciousness is the first cause of everything.
Huh. I've never heard that. I really like that. I'm gonna look that Max Planck, you said his name is. I love that. Um, so another thing I want to talk about is we've spent a lot of time talking about our goals and reaching goals, right? And working toward goals and accomplishing goals. But something that I've struggled with, I'd say one of the biggest pains in my life, and something I see many of my listeners and people I talk to struggle with. The highest performers, we're talking the best athletes in the world, the richest people in the world, almost all of them at some point experience this pain where they get their goal and they're happy for maybe a minute, maybe a day, if they're lucky, a week or two. And then they feel lost because all they do is set a higher goal again.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to sustain fulfillment while still reaching our goals? Because something I've realized myself is there's always going to be another goal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Always. And that is okay. And that's actually amazing because progress fuels our fulfillment. But how can we do this in a way where when we reach that goal, we don't feel empty or lost?
That loss or that experience of emptiness or loss is a function of the meaning I've attached to the achievement of or the realization of that goal. The goal is simply a symbol of something, which is where the problem actually exists, because most people, will assign it as a symbol of happiness or fulfillment or success. When I get this promotion, when I get this car, when I get this spouse, it means I have achieved this, whatever this is. It's just a
Yeah.
placeholder. That's all it is. And the purpose of a goal, again, is not to get, which is what most people think the goal is about. The purpose of a goal is to grow. And if I'm continuously thinking about how do I grow who I am, I'll have goals, as stepping stones along the way, but I am not, and this is the key to this, I am not attached to the goal. I'm attached to the growth that I'm experiencing. That's what I'm paying attention to. Am I growing? Now, if I get the goal, wonderful. If I don't get the goal, I'm still growing. So it's not the end of the world if that goal doesn't manifest in the way that I thought it should. Yeah,
How do you measure that?
how do
How
you
do you
measure
measure
that?
growth?
Most of that has to do with an internal experience of am I how am I different from what I was last year? How am I different?
Okay.
So I want to be different than I was. I want to be
Hmm.
different than how I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I want to be different in some significant way that is meaningful to me, that suggests that I've expanded my capacity,
Interesting.
expanded my, whatever it is, but there's an expansion that comes. If I'm not expanding, I'm contracting. And contraction has to do with death and dying. Expansion has to
Right.
do with life and vitality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm
Huh.
77, and I have a ball.
I, I love it. And I can tell, you know how the energy on this call, I mean, I think that anyone listening and watching can feel it, but your smile, your energy, it's radiant. It's incredible. And you don't have to, I don't think the words that you're saying are so powerful and it's incredible what you are saying, but the way that you're saying it is another thing within itself. And I think that's something that is hard to speak to. Um, but I have so much respect for it, and it edifies you in such an amazing way. So just to compliment you, I really do feel it, and I can see that you've lived so much, and that you've changed so much, and that you truly are emotionally involved in what you're doing.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that is absolutely part and parcel of who I am in my life today. Uh, I yeah. I don't take myself too seriously. And this is kind of an answer to, yeah, the attachment that people have to goals. We take ourselves way too seriously. We take the outcomes in our lives too seriously. I mean, an example. I just got back from Egypt. I spent 3.5 weeks in Egypt, and
Nice.
it was amazing. It was absolutely phenomenal. And just the learning that took place there. And one of the things that I learned, and part of that trip, I was on the Nile River, cruised the Nile for about 8 days. And the Nile River, I came to learn, is 36 million years old. It's the oldest river on the planet. It's 36 million years old, and it is in the same riverbed that it has always been in. The riverbed has not moved, which is unbelievably unique for rivers on this planet. Now, where that moves to is because of the stability, because of the continuity, that Nile River Valley gave birth to these incredible dynasties that
Yeah.
literally was the font of civilization.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get chills just thinking about this. But yeah, I was floating on a river that was 36 million years old in a place that, King Tut.
Right. That's
And
amazing.
it was the same. And I was in Tut's, I was in Tut's bedroom, and I mean,
Yeah. That's incredible.
but the lessons. I mean, just to be able to play with the notion of what does this make possible? This kind of continuity, this kind of lack of attachment, and this is part of this. I mean, I can't count the number of dynasties that were present in ancient Egypt all the way through when Alexander the Great came through, and I mean
Yeah.
5,000 years minimal of archaeological exposition exists there. 5,000 years, and the ability of human beings to transition, to be able to, the rise and fall of dynasties. This universe is 33 billion years old. I mean, this outcome that I'm sweating bullets over in the greater scheme of things, it's kind of like, yeah, I'd better laugh at this.
Yeah. I think laughter is so important. I sometimes just try to, if I'm feeling anxious or stressed or whatever word you want to attach to it, just start laughing, and you feel your body just get lighter, and all of a sudden things just feel easier.
That's a vibrational shift, Jack. That's a vibrational
Yeah,
shift, and when it becomes lighter, more things are accessible.
yeah. It's Tony Robbins calls it changing his state. It's all the same thing. Something I want to talk to you about is thinking on our attachment to goals. I created everything I'm doing with this podcast and my speaking and coaching around an idea that I called the duality of gratitude and ambition. I want to hear what you have to say about it. So I'll explain it to you. Basically, I was 17 years old, and I had a business with 4 employees. I was living in France because I studied abroad. I went from not speaking the language at all to being certified and fluent, and I had everything I thought I wanted, yet I felt empty, like we talked about. And I remember standing in front of my mirror and looking at myself and just seeing so much fatigue and being confused. I thought life had betrayed me. It hadn't. What I'd done is I'd built a ceiling without a floor. I wasn't grateful enough for what I had, and something I see so many people talk about these days with the big motivators of the world, like David Goggins, is like they want to push forward. They want to push forward out of almost a hatred for their current circumstances. And what I decided is that I didn't want to chase happiness through goals. I wanted to reach my goals while standing on top of happiness, right? And use that as my platform. So I call it the duality of gratitude and ambition, being extremely grateful for our current circumstances and saying, I have everything I want right now, yet I still can want more, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And right now is perfect. What do you think about that as a framework, as an idea for solving this problem of attachment?
It's Attachment comes from a belief in scarcity. It's an abundant universe. I don't need to be attached to anything. It's an abundant universe. I cannot outgive the universe. So gratitude is just an acknowledgement of the abundance that is, that's available to me in my life. I'm either experiencing it right now or it's already happened. I just haven't arrived. When I arrive, I'll experience it then. So gratitude is a very high vibrational state. It really is. I mean, I've got a daily gratitude practice that I work with. I mean, that's just part of my ritual in the morning, and it's not just a one and done. Both my wife and I, we practice gratitude as an elemental piece of the way that we live our lives. I'm grateful for this. She was diagnosed with a very serious illness 2 years ago. And just as a reference point on this, I mean, she had brain surgery and there was just, I mean, it was serious. And when the first diagnosis came in, she made the comment to the neurologist, said, "There is an unexpected opportunity here. I'm not sure what it is yet, but there's an unexpected opportunity and I'm going to find it."
Wow.
And
I have the chills. Wow.
that has informed her entire journey and my journey with her, the last 2.5 years. And she's
How
doing
is she
great.
right now?
She's doing great. She's doing
I love
great.
to hear that.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. Wow. Blaine, this has been so incredible. I really, really am grateful, unironically, for our time together, that we got to meet. I originally reached out because I had an amazing conversation with David Meltzer, who you work with at the Napoleon Hill Institute. And I've learned so much from you. I really appreciate what you're doing. I'm so inspired by the fact that you continue to learn and prioritize learning and everything you've done. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Jack. And I do too. I am very grateful that you are 19 years old and you are working with this material. You're going to make an incredible difference. You're going to make an incredible difference in the world. And I take my hat off. Yeah, you remind me of me when I was 19.
I love to hear that, because I look up to you. So to end this conversation, what is one thing? I think action's a great thing to end on, right? So if anyone's listening to this and they've been inspired, which I don't know how they can't be, and they feel like they want to take action toward a goal that they really, really want, what do you recommend?
That, for me, that's an easy answer. And I love that
Great.
question. I mentioned I grew up on a farm, and nature has probably been one of my greatest teachers. And if you walk around nature and you really are paying attention, just noticing what goes on there is nothing in nature that is exclusively serving as a center of accumulation. Now, water will accumulate in a pond, but it's always being distributed in some way, shape, or form. Everything in nature serves as a center of distribution at the end of the day. So we are all parts of nature. So the suggestion I've got for people is, in your daily life, find a way to be a center of distribution. Give something away. Give it, whether it's a hug, a smile. On my website, we've got all kinds of resources that we give away. I mean, I give away probably 80% of my material.
It's incredible.
Centers of distribution. It's always in flow. So find something to do in a way to be that calls on you to be a center of distribution in life. I mean, that's what you're doing with your podcast. You're distributing information, knowledge, goodwill, all of that. And that makes a difference. Yeah. Nature is the only truly free market economy on the planet. Everything else
I love that.
is a very poor facsimile.
So find a way to give. Find a way to give.
Find a way to give. Be a center of distribution. And it doesn't have to be a big
Amazing.
deal. It puts you in the position of recognizing that abundance is your birthright.
That's so important.
You can't outgive
That's
the
amazing.
universe, so you just keep giving.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that so much. Blaine, thank you so much for this conversation. Everybody, this has been the Grateful Podcast.